Okay, we're going to start today, and we're going to do a couple of designed bodices, all right? So I'm going to give you some guidelines to help you design your bodices, and then I'm going to just let you go. So I probably won't actually finish one, but I'll just show you ideas of how you would do it, all right? Okay, the other thing I want you to do is we're going to put in the necessary fabric that we need to have buttons and buttonholes, okay? So because we're going to do that, I'm going to show you how on the board first, so that when I go ahead and mark my lines on the muslin, you'll know what I'm doing, all right? And what I want you to practice here are darts in different places, and I'll need some soutache. Do we have any?
I can grab some.
Okay, great. Oh, the other thing is I want you to write down on your score sheet where it says darts. I want you to put on there that you've used soutache on the score sheet, okay? Because I want you to practice doing that, and I'll show you how. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about buttons and buttonholes, all right? So we've kind of been working with 1/2-inch buttons. That's sort of what we're doing. And so let's just go over here to my lovely drawings. Okay, so when we do our patterns, this is center front right here. Okay? All right, so if that is center front, and I'm going to put some buttons and buttonholes on here, so this will be a closure, then I'm going to need an extension, right? So how big of an extension do I need? Okay, so if my button is 1/2 inch, then I would do a 1/2 inch extension, right? So this is totally whatever the width of your button. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm really not good at this, but here we go. Okay. No, I don't want a ruler. There. That's a 1/2 inch with your imagination. Okay, so I have the extension. Now, on your flat patterns, that's all we did, right? Because then we would add our seam allowance and a facing. If we did a sew-on facing, then we need a seam allowance. If we didn't, we could just have an extended facing, right? So we're going to do an extended facing. So I'm going to do another 1/2 inch. So then I fold it back. So then this piece becomes the facing, so it gives support to the extension, and then I have my seam allowance, and I have a 1 inch because it is straight edge. Okay, so now that I know I have that, rather than just do my 1 inch down the side, I'm going to remember that I need to add these lines in. Okay, what Ashley?
So it's 2 inches?
Yeah. Yes, that's very 1, 2. All right, so add to the 2 inches, that will help. Okay, now, after you do that, kind of just in your mind, figure that one out. Then we're going to talk about darts. Okay, now up to this point, so far, what we've done is just the bust darts at the waist, and then we did shoulder darts, right? Okay, so what else could we do? And let me just mention, we didn't do soutache, right? Because these were very basic darts. And these went on the princess line. And these also start on the princess line and just pointed right to the bust point. So there was no need for soutache braid because we use lines on the dress form. We could do from here.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we could do that.
The shoulder. The neck.
Whoa, okay. Getting a little crazy. Okay, so basically you can do what you like, but no, maybe not go crazy. So if you did that, it'd be something like that. You could, now if you only did those 2, that would be a lot. That would be really big darts, right? Mm-hmm. Now what if you were to do a couple of darts here?
It's actually fun.
Yeah. That could be interesting. All right. So you could do 2 darts. Okay, here's center front. What about if we did a dart here? You could do those darts and this dart. You know, I mean, you could just really have fun here. All right. What about French darts?
Yep. That'd be nice.
Yeah. French darts coming in like this. You probably wouldn't want this there. All right. So you could do French darts. You could also do, like if you want to do some decorative, like if you do 2 darts coming out of one seam, you could do that, like we showed here. And you could also, like on center front, you could kind of do like that. Maybe if one point's right at the bust point, then usually the other ones are a little bit smaller, right? So you could have smaller one. And of course, as long as they point in the bust circle, they're gonna help with the fitting. So anyway, so you guys decide what you wanna do. I'm just gonna, so you could do this, you could do these, you could do a couple of, well, you could do this. Hey, let's do this. How about we do this? That's like a nothing dart. Let's do some good here. I don't know what those are doing, but there they are. All right, you guys draw some darts. Okay, oh, here's a little pretty dart. Don't do that. Okay, all right, so what we want you to do is to do a little drawing somewhere on your guide sheet with what darts you want to do.
How many do we have to do?
How many?
As many as we want?
1. You have to do 1. Yeah, but you can do, like if you want to really practice the French dart, if that's one of your favorites, do that. And also I recommend, you know, doing 2, like, and then just turning in 1. Maybe do 1 with, like the one that we grade, we want it to have the buttons and buttonholes, and then whatever darts you want to do. All right? Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and get this ready. Okay. So, we're going to start with our seam allowance. Okay, and then we're going to do the extension and then the facing. Okay? So, seam allowance, extension, well, that's facing, extension. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put those on. It's a little harder to, if you forget to do this, it's a little harder to go back and do it, right? Like impossible, pretty much. Wait, did I get, oh yeah, I did. Okay, let's do this one. So when we do this, make sure you label these, okay? Okay, I'm trying to do this straight. Okay, there we go. All right, so center front is here, right? And then we have our extension facing seam allowance. So our fold line is right here. Okay, you should try writing this upside down. It's really fun. Okay, all right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in our bust line for our other, we need our cross grain. So we'll go down to, I think we did 11 last time. Okay, something is really off here, but it could be my measuring. Okay, I'm just gonna, okay, that is, okay. All right, so now we have that, let's talk about different darts that we could do. Okay, so we'll fold it at center front. So when you have this extension, it's just gonna kinda, like here's our center front. I'm going to fold it on center front, and then I'm going to fold it on the seam allowance so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, all right. Okay, so here's the seam allowance right here, but here's center front. Okay, so when I put it on the dress form, this goes over here.
And you went down 12 inches for that length?
Yeah, I did 11.
11.
Yeah, that's what we did last time, so. Okay, so you gotta slip that back. Make sure that's on. Okay. This is a little trickier. So I'm not dealing with the edge. Okay, it doesn't want to go. There we go. All right, so can you see how this will just kind of, you still use your center front, but this will be kind of hanging here. Okay, all right, so now we're ready to start doing something, all right? So we have, and just make sure you get it balanced, all right? And I think it is. Okay, but you guys will check and see. Okay, so here we have it. Okay, so what we did last time, this is a little off here, so I would have to fix this, but I'm not going to fix it right now. Okay, here we are. So what we did last time is we did a dart here, below the bust line, and we did a dart up here. So because of that, we were able to take this straight across, and we had our little guide here to balance it, and then we brought all the fullness and shape here into this dart, and then all the shape and fullness from here we brought up into this dart. Okay, so as you guys start moving your darts around, let's say that you want to do the one dart here, like maybe you just want one waist dart, so then you're just going to bring this up like that. If you're going to do that, then you can go ahead and put your cross grain on, your lengthwise grain, and put this where it goes, and then you'll start up here, get your neck, and do your armhole, but you're going to push all your fullness down. So do you see what's happening to your cross grain here? If you're going to put all the fitting down here, then this is going to end up coming down. Okay? All right? So what if we decide we want to do a dart up here, or a couple darts out of the neck or something? Then you're going to start down here, and you would pin that down. I'll just pin it down so you can see. Okay, and then you're going to bring everything up, so you'd come down here, and of course you're going to slash, get it to fit good, and you're going to bring everything up, and you can see how your cross grain is going to go up now, and you're going to end up with your darts either at the shoulder, or you can do them at the neck. Okay, and then you can just decide if you want one or two, or however you want to do it, but you can see how you smooth this up and bring everything up here. Okay, so this line, this cross grain will drop if everything's down here, and it will go up here if all your fitting is going to be up here. Okay? Okay, now what if we want to put darts here, like our lovely diagram? Okay, then what you're going to do, instead of, well, let's take this off. So instead of anchoring it here, you're going to anchor it here from the bust to the side seam. Okay, and you're going to get right in front of that, get that nice and straight. Okay, and then you can bring all your fullness over, and again you slash so that this will actually come around, and you can bring it all right here. Okay? So then you bring this over and maybe put your darts here. Something like that. Okay? This is awkward, but here we are. Okay. So then this becomes where you anchor it. Your cross grain here, and then at that point you might want to put a guideline in here to help keep that straight, and then just bring all your fullness around. So as you can see, that's going to be off. If you're going to have darts here, you would just have a seam line, and that wouldn't be a straight line. Okay? All right? Any questions on that? Okay? Yeah. Oh, you know what I forgot? I didn't put any soutache, so I'm going to do that. Yeah. Somebody had a question.
So with the there in the bus area, so with the extension, do you have to move it back to center front then?
No, you would still put center front on center front, and the extension would just go beyond. Okay, so let's put down the soutache. So I'm going to do a dart here at the neck, let's say. Okay, and so maybe I want to do one here. Okay. So this will help me, and also because you want it to point, like if I want to do one that points to the bust, then I would do that. Now what if I want to do two darts? Should I point them one at the bust, one inside the bust circle but a little ways away? Or what if I did two on each side? Okay, so if I do that, then our dart rules come into effect here. So maybe at this point I want to do one like this. Okay? And then, but this one is pointing right to the bust point. But maybe, and I want them to, I want this one to point. Then I want this one, because this one is pointing right there, maybe I want, and you can use a ruler. And so maybe on this one I'm just going to end it right. I could make it a little bit smaller. Okay. So I could bring this one here and this one maybe end it. So when we start working like this, we need to remember our dart rules. So if I have two darts out of one seam, how long should they be? Do you guys remember? Two darts out of one seam are usually, they're almost treated like one dart out of the one seam. So it would go pretty close to the bust point, or it'll back off a little ways. Now if I wanted to make this one bigger than this one, then this one should point right to the bust point and be within half an inch, and maybe this one I could back off if it's smaller. Okay, what if I want two darts parallel? Remembering how we did that. How would I make sure these were parallel? I know you've got it, you're thinking of it. Okay. While you're doing that, I'm just going to put this back on. Okay.
Would they both need to still be inside the bus circle?
Yep.
They
Yep.
go like equally to, they have like an equal distance from the bust point.
Yeah. And the inside dart leg needs to be parallel, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're together like that. So let's say I'm gonna, so then if you're gonna follow that soutache, now I've kind of designed them, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on here, okay, and I'm gonna bring this where it goes. So with these different lines, don't confuse your center front still. Okay, so now if I'm going to put them both here, then I'm going to start doing some slashing. I'm going to take this out, right, because this is unbalanced. So that means this cross grain here is going to go up. But I've got it, well, not quite, but I need to anchor it there. Okay, so I've got it anchored here. And remember how we added in a little bit of ease here. So now I'm going to do some slashing. And I'm going to smooth this out, and it's going to look much nicer than this because I'll do slashing. And then I'm going to bring this up here, and bring all the fullness here. So now here's my, look at that, all of that. I mean, this obviously is not done right, but once I bring that up here and I've trapped the dart that I need to create that shape, then I'm gonna come in front of it, and the first thing I would do is separate it and put half into one dart. If I want them both to be, well, one's pointing right to the bust, so that one would need to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so maybe I'll make that one bigger, and then this one I could do a little bit smaller, and it'll still help with the fitting, but not as much. Okay, so you can see how you do that. So this would all be smooth. This would be all smooth here, and I get the amount I need, and then form that into the darts. And because I've got the soutache, that's going to help me put my darts where they go and where they should point, just like the princess lines would have done. All right, and with the soutache, it creates a ridge so you can use it. So anytime that I'm designing and I'm not going to use the lines given here on the dress form, we need the soutache. So someone mentioned a yoke. So we're not really doing a yoke, but what if I were to put a yoke right here? Then I would need the soutache, right? And I would make my yoke design with the soutache so that I could then stop at that point and design that part, and then I would go through and design, you know, put the muslin using that, the yoke as the lines. Okay, does that make sense when we use soutache and when we don't?
Yes.
All right, okay, and we know how to do the buttonholes now, or the lines, the extension. So we have the center front, then we have the fold line, and then we have the seam. So if, you know, so putting this back on the dress form, this is my fold line, so this is how it would actually be. It'd be like this, and then this line would go here. Okay. Okay, let's talk about buttons and buttonholes. Where do they go? Okay, well, the first thing you want to do, just kind of reviewing your button rules, is from the neck. If I have a 1/2 inch button, then I go down 1/2 inch. And I always like to put my buttons on first. And where do the buttons go? Which line should I use?
Center front.
Center front buttons always go along center front or center back. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to start putting in my buttons. And I don't have, obviously I wouldn't want to do it on here. I would take it off and put my buttons. And then you want one here, here, and so maybe put them here. Now, sometimes we get a little carried away with buttons and they end up being like 1 inch apart or 1.5 inches. Would you really want that many buttons on your shirt? Not unless you want to, you know, drive yourself crazy. But if you put a button here and then 1.5 inches, and then each of these buttons are 1/2 inch, so you take out a quarter here and a quarter here. It's like they're barely 1 inch apart. I don't have any shirts like that, and if I did, I'd get rid of them, unless it was a design feature, which I don't want to do. So anyway, so put your buttons at least how far apart are buttons and buttonholes usually?
2 inches.
Like 3 inches?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I hear 3 inches out there? Good. All right.
3 inches.
3 to 4 inches. So, because if you think about it, that's like this far apart, right? 1, 2, 3. So that's not crazy. And then your buttons go over and out a little bit. So 3 to 4. Amy, how far apart are yours?
3 1/4.
Yeah. So, yeah. So be thinking that in your mind of, do I want to go crazy? Do I want not? Okay. Then we get down to here. Okay, so then we space our buttons. We want to come down the right amount, put one where we really need it, and then space them out. And then if we have a seam here, remember a seam acts like a button. So then, now that doesn't mean we have to be exactly 3 inches above, but you'd want to be, like, you don't want to be within like 1 inch. So if you came down here, you know, as long as you aren't right on top of that. So kind of stay a little ways away from that. Okay. So once we get our buttons, X, X, let's put in a few X's. Okay. All right, so let's just put a button. I'm going to do these two, so I'm going to put some here. So here's a button. Okay, here's another one. So that means my buttonholes go over into the extension, 1/8 of an inch, and then they go back. Okay, just like that. Now, do we close this off on the other side? We do if we know the depth of the button. Most buttons, I mean, if it's a small 1/2 inch button, it's probably 1/8 of an inch depth. So that means that you do 1/2 an inch plus the depth, so that'd be at least 5/8. However, I can just leave this open. And that just says, I don't know what kind of crazy button you're going to buy. So, I better leave that open, because what if you get some really strange thing, and I need this to be really big. So, you can also leave that open. And that would be who's ever sewing it up would determine how wide that needs to be. Okay, I think we're good. And then, well, almost. We'll just review a few things. Okay, so then you're going to mark the waist. Remember how to do the side seam, armhole, shoulder seam, neck seam. Do you have any questions on doing that? Yes?
So you do a front and a back?
No, just the front. Yeah. So my advice would be to do one front with all your button and buttonholes extension, and then maybe do another one where you just practice doing some darts if you want to practice doing another dart or armhole, things like that. Okay, any other questions? And remember, instead of marking it, we pinned it at the at the waist, but we went down to the bottom of the tape to give our length. And then if you have questions about the armhole, we can answer them as you go. Okay, I think we're ready to be done. Okay.